On a computer network, every endpoint uses a unique IP address. Applications that provide communication between endpoints use these addresses to identify communicating end devices. If you want to access a resource available on an endpoint, you have to use its IP address. For example, if you want to access a website stored on a server, you have to use the server's IP address. Generally, IP addresses are difficult for humans to remember. IP addresses are made of numbers. Instead of numbers, humans prefer names to identify and access network objects. Let's take an example. Suppose you want to access Google's website. Google's website's address is available in three formats: IPv4, IPv6, and name. Which format will you use on the browser to access Google's website? Most of us will use the name rather than the IPv4 and IPv6 formats. It is more convenient and easier to use, speak, and type. But there is a problem: computers never use names to access network resources. The solution to this problem is mapping. Computers allow you to map IP addresses to their respective names. After mapping, when you access a resource by its name, the computer automatically converts the name to its IP address. There are two ways to map IP addresses to names: using the host's file or a DNS server. Let's understand both methods. All operating systems include a file called hosts. You can use this file to map IP addresses and names. Each time you access a network resource, the operating system checks this file to find the corresponding IP address. To illustrate this process, I will use the virtual lab I set up to explain RHCE exam topics. To learn how to set up this lab, you can check out this video. The link to this video is available in the description. Since you are not allowed to use the internet during the exam, I didn't configure these virtual systems to use the host's internet connection. If you have set up a similar virtual lab for practice, you need to configure one virtual system to access the host's internet to complete the exercises explained in this video. To do this without messing with the existing setup, add a new LAN card and configure it as a bridge connection. A bridge connection allows the virtual machine to access the host's internet connection. After doing all the exercises explained in this video, you can remove this LAN card. Now, power on this virtual machine. Log in from the root account. Linux stores the host's file in the /etc directory. By default, this file has only two entries. Both entries map the name localhost to the loopback address. To verify this, you can check this file. Open a terminal and show the content of this file. As you can see here, this file has only two entries, both of which map the name localhost to the loopback address. This file stores entries in lines. Each line represents a single entry. Each entry includes two things: an IP address and a name. The IP address is written first. The related name is written after a tab space. Localhost is the default hostname on Linux. If you don't configure a hostname or delete all configured hostnames, Linux uses this name as the default hostname. To learn more about the host names, check out this video. This video explains everything you need to know about hostnames on Linux. A loopback address is a reserved IP address. It is used to check the TCP/IP protocol suite on the local system. If you get a reply from this address, it verifies that TCP/IP is working properly on the local system. There are two versions of IP addresses, IPv4 and IPv6. In IPv4, the IP address 127.0.0.1 is reserved for the loopback address. In IPv6, the IP address 1 is reserved for the loopback address. When you access a network resource by using its name, Linux first checks this file to find its IP address. If it finds the corresponding IP address in this file, it uses that IP address to access the resource. To verify it, let us open a web browser and access Google's website. Linux first checks this file to know which IP address is associated with the name google.com. If it does not find an entry in this file, it checks the DNS server to find the IP address associated with the name google.com. The DNS server resolves the name google.com to its IP address and shares that address with the system. The system uses the shared IP address to access Google's website. If the system finds Google's IP address in the host's file, it does not check the DNS server for it. Right now, the host's file has no entry for the name google.com. Because of this, the browser will use the DNS server to find the IP address associated with the name google.com. The DNS server will find and share the IP address associated with the name google.com. To verify, let's open this file. As we know, there are two versions of IP addresses, IPv4 and IPv6. Let's add two entries for the name google.com, one for each version. This entry will map the name google.com to a loopback address on IPv4, and another entry will map the name to a loopback address on IPv6. Now, when we access Google's website, the browser checks this file to determine Google's IP address. This file tells the browser that Google's website's IP address is 127.0.0.1 in IPv4 and 1 in IPv6. The browser tries to load Google's website from these addresses. Since these addresses belong to the local system and the local system does not have Google's website, the browser fails to load it. We mapped only the name google.com with a loopback address. We didn't map any other website's name. As a result, the browser uses the DNS server to resolve the names of other websites. The DNS server will tell the browser the actual IP address of each website. As a result, we will be able to access other websites. As you can see here, we can access other websites, but we can't access Google's website. It verifies that the system initially uses the host's file to resolve a name. If it does not find an entry in the host's file for a name, it only then sends a query to the DNS server to find the corresponding IP address of that name. Now open the host's file again and remove the entries that we added here. Save the file. Use the file contents again to verify the change. As you can see here, the entries that mapped the name google.com to loopback addresses have disappeared. Now access Google's website again. As you can see here, we can now access Google's website again. At this time, the host's file does not have an entry for Google's website. Since the host file does not contain an entry for Google's website, the browser uses the DNS server to resolve google.com. The DNS server returns the actual IP address of google.com to the browser. The browser then accesses the website. That's all for this video. If you have any comments, suggestions, or feedback about this video, please share them in the comments section given below.